How's it, mate? How's it going?
Lekker, man.
Yeah,
Lost you there. Hold on. There you go.
as always, your setup looks proper. I can see your lighting is perfect. You got a natural baguette forming on around the screen there. You can see that I'm dealing. Yeah, I've got my $60 Amazon special. I'll be treating myself to a proper road setup um, later on. But you can see I'm dealing with a professional. It's not you're not your average your average podcaster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How's it
We
going, man?
try. Okay. So things better your side?
Yeah. No, things are going great. I mean, we've been busy. I've
Yeah.
done quite a few interviews in the last couple of weeks. I've
Yeah.
got like Joe Black and them on board to help out with a few shout outs, and Kevin did one that you saw, Kevin Fraser, and then also
Yeah.
I've got an exciting interview lined up on Monday with Spook Wolf, the whole band.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm
So you
quite
got all these famous people, then you got me.
well. No, you're way more important than that. You should know that. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
How
thanks for you doing this, man. It's yeah.
no, anytime. How have you been?
Yeah, good. Yeah, busy, which is good, keeping me out of trouble. And yeah, I just had a lot going on last week and whatever, but yeah, it's all sorted now. Everything's good.
Good, mate. Now we've had a bit of a call before. You can say it was a warm up to this podcast. Now
Yeah.
you wanna take a moment and just introduce yourself.
Okay, so quick introduction. Warren Burley, director now in Hollywood. Started out in Joburg. I've been here for 9 years. Yeah, it's been interesting roller coaster ride, should we say? But yeah, doing okay now. And yeah, what else can I say? Working in the film industry and carrying on.
You're South African. You're a director in Hollywood. Come on, give us more than that. You
Yeah.
tell me what sort of movies have you worked on?
Well, let me start off by saying I didn't aspire to being a director.
Yeah.
It kind of all came by accident, should we say? I came over with the intention of working in the sound industry because that's where I started. In sound studios and things like that. I worked on a couple of big films, even in South Africa. And America was the next thing to do. Was to come over here and try and further my career. And then I found it quite difficult, the small fish, big pond syndrome. So I kind of had to develop. And now I'm a director. and I've actually worked on some big projects. Also Emmy nominated recently, which is a big step for me.
I saw that. Emmy nominated for which was it? I think it was a TV series, was it?
No, it was actually for some commercials I did.
Right.
Yeah, which is quite good. To be nominated for an Emmy for commercials is quite quite a big thing.
Now, I've also read somewhere, Warren, that you've got a very famous a circle around you. One of your friends is David Hasselhoff. Is that true?
Yeah, another interesting story.
Tell us.
You know,
Come on, we want to hear about
we used to watch him as kids, and then I ended up directing actually a South African commercial for Chicken Licken with him, and the friendship grew. He just started calling me at 5 o'clock in the morning, catch up, which is kind of weird. And next thing I knew, I was at his 70th birthday. My wife and I were invited guest only to his 70th birthday, quite a shindig. And we met a lot of Baywatch people and Chips. I don't know if you remember the show Chips
Yes.
with Poncherello. Yeah, we met Poncherello, which was quite a big thing for me because I used to watch that as a kid. And yeah, he's become quite a good friend. Yeah.
That's incredible, man. For a South African that has achieved so much. I mean, surely you've worked really hard to get there. Do you want to give us a few examples of all the obstacles you had to get through to make it?
Yeah, interesting story. As you
Tell
say,
us.
a long
Tell me all
story.
about
But yeah, as I said, we've been here for 9 years. When we first came over, it was a struggle. I won't lie. It was the first 2 years were hard. We used our savings as most South Africans do when you move overseas. I think we expected a lot, in the first year. I'm big overseas, whatever. Come out to the States, and nobody knows you. It's actually incredible. Like, you get this, all of a sudden you wake up and you go, whoa, hang on, I'm nobody here, And I literally had to go knock on doors. Good old style knock on door. Hey, I'm here. I'm ready to work. And at first, the Americans were like, nobody does this anymore. How do we receive this? And I got my first client. Did some commercials, and it kind of grew from there. But there's been a lot of obstacles, especially with accent. I found in the beginning, I'm not going to say racism, but there was a lot of like, hang on, you're not American, we're not using you. And I had people say it to my face, like literally, I go for an interview and people go, no, I'm not going to, even though you're qualified, you're more qualified than I am, you got more awards than I have, I'm giving it to an American. And that was the honest, straight answer from a lot of people.
That doesn't surprise me of things that I've heard over there. It does. Do you think it differs from state to state, because they've got each sort of got their own little government, don't they?
Yeah, I think it is state to state. Also being in California, it was kind of a weird setup. I think it has a lot to do with it, and I think also there's a lot of American pride. There's a lot of built in America, only use American, this type of thing. And then you got this influx of aliens that come in, and people just like, no, we don't want to use you. Well, we don't want to use, Spanish speaking person or a South African or whatever, because they're scared to lose their jobs. And I can totally understand that, because over here I found, you go into a job and everybody only does a specific job. Me as a sound engineer, where I started in South Africa, we used to have to do everything. So I'd walk into studio, I'd record the voice, I'd mix the voice, I'd clean up everything, I'd do the music, I'd put all the sound effects together and send it off. Whereas over here, one guy records a voice, one guy cleans the voice up, one guy does the music, and I think that's kind of a plan to give everybody work. And then somebody comes in and goes, no, I can do it all.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, no, you can't do it all, because you're taking 5 jobs away, So I hate that a lot as well.
There's some of that here in Australia as well, I've seen. So when I was working in the UK, I had to do a whole bunch of tasks at the same time. And I managed the budget, I managed the network, I managed the IT infrastructure. Then when I came here, there was a person assigned for each one of those things. And then I looked at them like, the first question that I ask is why? Because according to the best of my knowledge, I could do it all. But then I found out, after living here and working here for a few years, you know what? The fact that person only focuses on that one aspect makes them so good at it, they do it better than anyone else. And they don't just do it better in a sense of doing it well. They're thinking outside of the box. They're doing extra. They expanding that role into something different. And it sort of made sense to me. I don't know if it's the same over there. Did they eventually like embrace you to just come in and just do it all?
No, you know what? To extend the story, that's why I opened my own place. I opened my own production house eventually. And in the beginning, again, it was a struggle, to get people to use me. But eventually people started using me, and then they started seeing the quality of my work. I had to keep a lot of stuff secret in the beginning. So when they said to me, okay, you got an editor? Yes, I've got an editor. Meantime, I was editing. You got a colorist? Yes, I was doing the coloring, but they didn't know. So they thought I had this huge conglomerate of people. And that's also why they started using me. And then eventually they found out, look, whatever, I'll do, I did whatever. I mean, now it's different. I've expanded. So I've got a lot more people working with me and for me. But yeah, in the beginning, you kind of had to learn to keep things quiet. You get the work.
You become streetwise in Hollywood.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a South African thing. I think if, we're not scared to say yes. And I often get, my wife often says to me, she says, listen, don't say yes to a job you don't know. but I'm that way inclined. That's why I've got to where I am, because I never say no.
Well, wasn't it Richard Branson that said, if you're offered a great opportunity, take it, and then you just learn how to do it. So
yeah, figure it out. That's my motto.
Yeah. And
YouTube University.
I've said yes to jobs when it comes to say for instance, someone can move to want an app developed, and I can develop an app, but now he wants something very sophisticated built into it. I'm like, yeah, let me just jump onto one of those freelance websites and let me get someone to sort that out. And a lot of times people they come with the idea, they're looking for a team, and that team is going to deliver each one of their needs. But what they really want is someone that's going to project manage it for the whole thing for them. Because then at the end of the day, they only have that one tiny little bit of stress. The rest of the stress falls on the project manager, which technically then is you. Now, you also run your own podcast. Like a tiny little podcast there in America. Is it like how big is it now? How many downloads have you had since you?
We've got over 10,000 downloads at the moment. So it's grown. Also started out as a hobby, on the side, and it just grew. Grew quite big.
I was joking when I said tiny. For a South African podcast, and specifically reaching out to South Africans abroad, that is a very good number. And I can confirm as much, because I run sort of a similar thing, doing these sorts of interviews, but just on YouTube. And 10,000, I'll take that any day for download. And where do you host your podcast?
Well, we host it on Buzzsprout, but you can actually find our podcast anywhere. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Most people just get on their phone on Apple Podcasts. But anywhere you download a podcast, we're on every single platform.
You can find it on Oorsee.
You can find it on Oorsee as well. We appreciate the pushing on that side as well. And we've actually been very blessed with the podcast. A lot of people are clinging to it, and a lot of people are loving it. I mean, I get emails all the time. People, just love listening to the podcast. It reminds me of home. And I think that's what we were trying to achieve, just to remind people that where we come from, our journey, everybody's on a journey. And I just love telling the stories, of everybody that's moved and why they've moved.
The thing about podcasts, it was never something that appealed to me. I would be at the gym and I would always put on some mix that's going to keep me pumped to finish that hour or whatever I've set aside to train. But ever since I started listening to podcasts while doing it, I seem to get lost in it. And before I know it, I'm pushing that hour like nothing. So, and the podcast is something I definitely recommend to everyone. And I'll remember to recommend yours. Now, you'd surprise how many Australians I work with that absolutely love watching these videos. Because, look, they've always been living in this bubble. They've been in Australia. They've maybe went to the odd holiday to Bali or Fiji, but otherwise they're here, they're safe, they're secure. Never have they felt the urge or need to move abroad in order to survive, in order to provide for your family, in order to secure a safe place for your children. And these sorts of things, video podcasts, audio podcasts, it appeals to them. It's intriguing for them, and they just love listening and watching it. So what's the next sort of chapter for your podcast? What are you planning on doing with it?
Well, I'm trying to reach a lot more people and eventually monetize the actual podcast. But I'm trying to explore the whole thing about video podcasts. Because like you say, some people can watch a video podcast and some people like to listen to podcasts. But we kind of want to open it up to everybody. I think that's our main game. And just reaching a lot more people, I think.
I would encourage you to do so. As a matter of fact, when the time comes and you're ready, we can collaborate as many times as you please. Because managing the app, the website, the YouTube channel has become almost a full-time job. And I already have a full-time job. And I'm not making a cent out of doing stuff for a share, but it's just all for fun. But I'm looking for people to work with, people to partner up with, people that want to be a part of it and that's got ideas to expand it. And I would encourage. I'll never stop someone. So if it, look, for instance, like the video podcast now, any other person would say, but hold on, that's conflict of interest. No, it's not. It's not. It's another way of pushing South African traditions abroad. That's what it's about. And I encourage you to do it. And by the looks of the way that you've done your podcast, your video podcast is probably going to be amazing. Probably flashing Mr. Beast sort of lights and probably something exploding in the background. No, it's
that's my creative input. Like I'm probably that guy, you know. I'm probably going to have 100,000 things happening in the background, but that's kind of my creative like outlet, should we say? Because you know, a lot of times you're doing a commercial or you're doing a film, or whatever, and even though you're directing, the client still wants what the client wants. So you know, your creative space is here. And even with a podcast and with a video podcast or whatever we're doing, it's a nice way for me to, you know, show the world what I can do creatively. So yes, probably.
I'm a total noob when it comes to these things. I don't even know how I got this far. So it's I mean, for me, it's this is what it is. It's a chat between two guys and or myself and another family, and it's copy paste, put it to YouTube. Often I'll put some images or video overlay to it, which they normally provide. But I don't have a creative bone in my body when it comes to video editing or those sorts of things. But my wife, this is a way, she's got a way where she'll look at whatever I'm doing and she's like, you know what, this will make it look better. And at the end of the day, I do get it to a point where people want to watch it.
Hey, Warren, beyond every man is a successful woman, eh?
Absolutely. Warren, now you are quite busy in your work at the moment. Can you tell us a bit about the project you've been working on? Because I've heard names of the Mandela movie or series. I've heard World War Z. Are all those projects that you've been a part of?
Yeah, you know, I worked on a lot of big movies, especially overseas. Doing sound, I did a lot of sound for Invictus, World War Z, Spud. Spud was a big South African movie. Did a lot of stuff on that. Coming over here and stuff, like I've worked on a lot of reality shows. You know, that's kind of been a big thing for me. We just actually released our own reality show called In a Doghouse, spelled DAWGHAUS, almost like the German one.
I'll link it in the description. You need to send me the link.
Yeah, and that's on Amazon Prime, Voodoo, Apple. That's gone out to 3 different countries. We're trying to get it to South Africa now at the moment. That's the next step. But at the moment, it's Australia, Canada, and the US. Also going out to England very soon. So that should be there quite soon. But yeah, we did everything on that. So we filmed it. We actually executive producers on that as well. So we put money in, got that done. We edited it, the whole lot. We also distributed it ourselves. So that's also quite a big thing. That's also something that not everybody's doing, you know, doing everything low budget and just getting it out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was quite a big thing for us this year.
Wow. All right. Now, if you say it's in Australia on Prime, I've got Prime. I'll give that a look, definitely. And what's next?
Well, we just signed 2 big contracts now with 2 documentaries as well as 2 game shows. The one game show is going to be huge. That's a $10 million budget. So I've actually been asked to direct that, and then my production house will film that. So that's coming now in September. We're going to start filming that, but I think that's going to be our biggest project to date.
Wow, amazing! Look at that, South Africans making a difference abroad. I spoke to Walter Jackson last night. You'll remember him from one of my very first videos, my second recording, I believe. He's traveled 170 countries just on a South African passport. And he, surprisingly, I was doing another chat with him, and the whole topic swung around, and at the end of the night, he was interviewing me. So that video is still being edited. And he said something that really resonates with me, is that Oorsee has been very good in finding South Africans in the most weirdest places, like not just any South Africans, but amazing South Africans, like yourself, like Kobus, who lives in Canada. He's a publisher of 5 books. It's just, you guys are out there. you're out there and you're doing these amazing things, and we see these things. We'll sit there on the TV and we'll watch this, and we'll see this book in the bookstore. But little would we know there's a South African behind that. There's a South African there that's actually worked really hard to make something of themselves abroad. And I just need to tell you, well done. Well done. I'm really like when I saw you on Facebook the first time, I was quite excited. I said to my wife, "Listen, I need to interview this guy. He's actually making waves." And we're very in the same line of thought, because I'm not on your level. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a director of Hollywood movies, but we both have a desire to get the South African tradition and the South African point of view out there, and you're doing it.
Yeah, I think the main focus is to inspire other people, especially South Africans, because a lot of the time people sit at home in South Africa and go, "Oh, I'm never going to be able to do that because I'm South African." I'm here to show you that anything's possible.
Absolutely.
And at maximum effort, don't get me wrong, but anything is possible. And I'm hoping that I inspire other South Africans and other people in general.
I totally agree. Right, Warren, I have to say thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate that you made time for a second interview. This first interview will be strictly confidential. It will never air. It will be buried in the X-Files of Oorsee. And I'm really looking forward to watching your program grow. And from our side, we'll do our very best to push those podcasts of yours as far and wide as we can.
No, great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And it's a good chat. And everyone out there, South Africans Abroad, the podcast, check it out. Check out our Facebook page. And also you can see some of my work on my actual website. It's www.postandjam.com. There's some of my work on there. If you ever need anything or you just want to chat, I'm there. Thanks a lot, Stephen.
I'll link it all in the description. Before you go, give me the final score. Who's going to win? Come on.
We're definitely going to win.
Oh yeah,
I think by at least 10 points.
All right. So for those people that's watching this 3 years from now, the Springboks are playing New Zealand tonight, or this afternoon. I think it's 5 o'clock Australian time, 3 o'clock New Zealand time, or Perth time. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think that's 1 o'clock our time tomorrow morning.
Yeah, so no excuse. You can't miss it.
No excuse. We'll be up watching the game and shouting for the Bokke.
Cheers, mate. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, bye.